has been there for you during the most challenging times of our lives. As an artist collaboration, we've given shape and depth to some of the most complicated topics of our time, making them easily accessible for those who seek to understand. We've given voice and space to the stories that often go ignored. Please take a moment to consider being a patron, make a donation, or join Rockfin. Thank you. Well, hello.
Good morning.
Hi. We're live today on Pullquote.
We sure are.
And we've been doing pre-recorded shows, but today we have a special program of live stream for you guys. So hopefully the West Coast is waking up to a new Pullquote.
Yeah.
For those of you who are watching the recorded version, everything's the same. But today we have... oh, by the way, hello, Rockfin.
Hi, Rockfin. Hi, Twitter. Hi, YouTube.
And hello, Facebook. And today we have Cindy Sheehan. I almost said Sherman for some reason. Cindy Sheehan, and she's on the West Coast, so it's early where she is, and early for the rest of you watching. Cindy is a peace and justice advocate who became active after her son Casey was killed in Iraq on 4/4/04. Sheehan came to international prominence in the summer of 2005 when she set up and led a peace camp in Crawford, Texas, on the doorstep of then President George Bush's vacation pig ranch. Named after her son, Camp Casey became a focal point for anti-war sentiments. She has published 7 books and ran for public office 3 times. Since COVID, Cindy's life has been consumed with seeking the truth about the so-called pandemic and exposing the lies. You can hear her podcast, Cindy Sheehan's Soapbox, at cindysheehansoapbox.blogspot.com. And so we'd like to welcome onto the show, Cindy Sheehan. Hello.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Hi, Cindy. Thanks for joining us today. We're Putin lover.
I tried to change that because I didn't know it was going to show up to everybody. It was like my little morning sarcasm there, because if you don't fall in line with blue and yellow, and we support. Right. I don't know if it's Ukraine or Urania that we're supporting, but then you must be a Putin lover, and I'm kind of really ambivalent about Putin. I just wrote an essay called "Protecting Democracy, My Ass," or "How Liberals Left to Swallow Democrat Agitprop," and so I really credit Putin for a remarkable restraint for the last 8 years of U.S. provocation. And so I do think that he's been more of a positive, actually way more of a positive influence on the world than the U.S. government has been under 3 presidents since then: Obama, Trump, and now whatever that is in the White House. I just like...
We've heard him referred to as the sock puppet.
The sock puppet in chief.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just sharing this because we're live, so I'm sharing it around. I know people would like to join the conversation.
Absolutely. So we feel the same way. It's like there's been some incredible restraint. We don't put any value in any state leadership of any kind. We have some chat on the. So if you pull up your chat, Cindy, you can see the comments being made in the public stream chat. So we don't put any value in any of the state leadership of any kind. And it's funny how everybody is. It feels like it has to be binary, right? It has to be you're either with them or you're with the other. It's right. And if you're somewhere in between, nobody knows what to do with that.
It's a ridiculous system that the liberals have set up. And I just really have a lot of disdain for liberals, by the way.
Yeah.
And I don't consider myself a liberal. Excuse me. We were fine when I was fine when we were chatting right now.
Earlier, yeah.
Like a million frogs in my throat. Oh, so I just think, I think that's the whole cancel culture, this whole paradigm of everything's black or white. And if you're not with them, you're against them. It's just a really ridiculous circumstances, very immature, very childish, very they have a very shallow understanding of politics, of current events, and their understanding is only as deep as what Rachel Maddow, etc., tell them to think. And it's just become so evident over these past 2 years that that's their way of operation.
Yeah.
Yes. It's really frustrating to see the lack of growth and the lack of critical thinking that you're lifelong friends with people who you've always pretty much aligned with, anti-war, anti-capitalism. But for some reason in the age of COVID, it's like their brain cells just deteriorated and mine advanced. So something happened.
Yeah. I've had friends for, not lifelong friends, but my son has been dead almost 18 years. And I've been doing this almost ever since he was killed, a few months. I came public on July 4th, 2004, and he had been killed April 4th, 2004. So July 4th was like my first local news thing that I did. But then, so I've made, I guess, some really good friends, but like there's been lines ever since Casey was killed. The first line was at Camp Casey in summer of 2005, where people like Move On and some Democrats came to Camp Casey and told me I needed to support this bill. And they called, it was like to get out of Iraq. And it was really like, it was sponsored by Dennis Kucinich, Neil Abercrombie of Hawaii, and then Walter Jones of North Carolina, Republican, and another Republican. I can't remember. Maybe it might have been Ron Paul, but I don't think so. And so anyway, it was really like this really long timeline to get out of Iraq. And I was like, I can't support our demand is troops out now, not troops out eventually.
Right.
And so once I didn't support that bill, like moved on from me. Oh, and then we had every election I lose so many friends, but I figure though they're all Democrats, right. And so the Democrats have mostly sloughed off. And during the COVID, when the COVID thing started, by then I thought I had a really smaller group of really good friends and comrades, because I believe they were anti-imperial, not just against Republican wars. They were against all war and against the empire and anti-capitalism. But then the COVID thing happened, and they I was like, how can you believe it? The government is telling us that. The media, the same media that lied about all these wars, is telling you that COVID is, this dangerous pandemic. And can't you believe your own eyes?
Right.
If I read a lot of fiction, and a lot of it is apocalyptic, and I was like, you would be stepping over bodies, and you're not.
Right.
Exactly.
And I didn't know one person that died until the vaccine.
Right.
Right.
And that's when my friends started dying, when they got the booster shot. I call it the boaster shot.
Yeah.
Wow. When they got the booster shot. And the thing is, it's so sad, because I haven't seen these people for 2 years, and then I haven't really talked to them because the COVID thing divided us so much. And they not only divided us, they ridiculed me.
Mm-hmm.
for thinking, you're anti-science, what are you now, a Trumper, QAnon person? And
Wow.
so we not only had disagreements, they ridiculed me, and a couple of them, unfortunately, you see on Facebook, oh yeah, I just got my booster shot. First of all, I call it a booster because I don't give a shit what
Right.
shots you have. And
Right.
so they think like we can post that we got this jab, and we can be really proud of it, and we can tell everybody we got it. But if we comment, it's like, no, that's my own business. Well, then why are you posting it over social media if I can't comment on it? And so, yeah, after they posted that, then they passed away. But the sad thing is, the
Wow.
sadder thing is, everything's sad. But the sadder thing is I don't think these people who said, yay, you're doing the right thing, God bless America and Pfizer, I don't think that they can make the connection that it was their now 3 shots that did them in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we noticed that in our circles too, in the leftist circles, and especially it was really especially weird hearing from the anarchists, going along the same routes, and you look at, I get emails from PM Press, and and they were just like hammering away at this thing, and we've talked to a friend of ours in England, Winter Oak, Paul from Winter Oak, and he's published a few things talking about how funding is really basically what's behind that about face, and that change in the way people have been describing this thing and talking about it and accepting it, that these so-called leftist groups received funding to influence that basically influenced them, and impact investment is what and it's pretty insidious how this whole thing has gone down, and it feels like it always comes down to money.
Oh yeah. It's amazing how many people have been funded by even Soros, the Open Society Foundation that he's ahead of. I mean, somebody that we used to follow, who we consider, anarchist, was very open. She was very open about
being funded
by the Open Society Foundation.
She's like, oh yes, this in fact is
funded by Soros,
and it's like throwing it in your face,
right?
While at the same time, spouting the gibberish about whatever they say about people, and to the point you made, they weren't just like disagreeing with you, they were mean and they were attacking you,
right?
Nasty. I didn't say like, well, I hope you die because you got all these shots.
I know.
Like, I hope you're okay. And I tried to prevent some people from getting their I call it the magic needle juice now, because I've been blocked so much from Facebook. It was 7 times last year.
Wow.
I got 7 30-day bans. So now I call it macaroni 19, and I call the jab the magic needle juice. And I excuse me, I'm not getting any warnings. Now I'm starting to get warnings on my posts about Ukraine and Russia, though.
Right. I think that we have a real problem with the constant censorship. JP is an early adopter of Facebook, like back when it was really nothing, and was experienced a ban and went after Facebook hard, and within 24 hours they brought him back up.
Well, it wasn't even just a ban. I mean, they just
it wasn't a ban. They completely removed his profile and his account altogether. He tried to log in, and it was like, sorry, you don't exist. So
so long, 12 years, or whatever it was.
14 years, I think. So so there's definitely a real problem with the censorship, which makes me and everybody who can engage in critical thought, it makes everybody realize that what we are saying and what we believe, we must be onto something, that they keep squishing us. They keep censoring us.
So why would they censor us if they weren't afraid what they were saying, of what we were saying. And when you were talking about the funding that media people get, it was proven back during the run up to the Iraq War that the Pentagon paid a lot of shills to go on MSNBC, Fox, CNN to promote the war and to promote and it was all like General Barry McCaffrey. So it was all, or Colonel,
Wow.
I don't care what he was. There was all kinds of paid shills going on to talk about the weapons of mass destruction, Saddam's support of terrorism, blah, 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 whatever. And a report just came out recently about the same thing going on with COVID, is they paid tens of millions of dollars to media outlets to promote the magic needle juice. So it's just, if it's good and if it is necessary and if it doesn't cause a bunch of hundreds of thousands of adverse events and reactions, then they shouldn't have to do that.
Right.
You know,
Right,
they
exactly.
shouldn't have to block us
Right.
from sharing. And so this is the other thing about this past 2 years. It's like all of the people who supported the masking, the PCR tests, then the mRNA vaccine, they would say, oh, we believe in science.
Right.
So it became scientism. And I would be like, but I can show you, 10 doctors, scientists, immunologists, epidemiologists that say exactly opposite of what your science is saying. And let's look at what your science is saying and let's find out who funds your science. Oops. Pfizer, Merck, Johnson and Johnson, whatever. There isn't that weird how the people who come to support these things are funded by those people.
Right.
What a coincidence, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, and the science always seems to be the thing as opposed to science, but and it is a belief system. And we did a video where we were calling that out and saying, why do you have to believe in the science when science is not something you believe in? It's a method of investigation.
Right.
Right. So it's always funny, we always go to the language and look at how things are presented and how things are said. And, we see how things track over time, how things get introduced, and, I remember back a few years ago, maybe after the 2016 election, maybe around that time, they were talking about climate change and, the science is settled. The science is settled. Oh, right. Julie, the science is settled. Cindy, the science is settled. And, the thing about that is that, science is never settled. Science is always an argument between people of different opinions who have, different, proofs that, whatever their experiment, that they ran, different outcomes. And it takes time to really come down to whether something is scientifically proven or not. And even then, new findings can lead to new opinions. And so it's just, the science is never settled except for maybe gravity. I don't know even about that these days.
Right.
So
maybe the immutable laws of physics.
Right.
Maybe we can say those are settled.
You ran for the Peace and Freedom. You ran on the vice presidential for a vice presidential ticket for the Peace and Freedom Party. Can you explain that or talk about that experience? What led to that experience for us?
Well, my first run for office was in 2008 against Nancy Pelosi in San Francisco, and I ran as an independent. That was a really good campaign, and I just was reading some I don't know, something came up and it was about that and about my totals, and I actually got more votes than I thought I got. So because it takes a long time for all the votes to finally for the votes to be settled, and so I came in second, and we had a really good campaign. But That's funny because CNN, I don't know if they still do it, but the last time I checked, they always have like an archive of elections. And in 2008, I ran against Pelosi, and there was a Republican, there was a Libertarian. I think there were probably about 6 people in the election that year. And I came in second, and CNN only gives the vote totals for for the Democrat and Republican. They don't give my vote totals. Like, I wasn't even in that election. But anyway, so after that election, the Peace and Freedom Party approached me, and I had already been working with them, and they supported my campaign. They didn't run anybody in the district. The Greens didn't run anybody in the district. And they all like supported my campaign. So I thought that my platform was very socialist. So the Peace and Freedom Party is the only socialist party in the country that has ballot access. And to get on the ballot at that time, this was before it changed to the top 2 primary in California. But to get on the ballot, if you are a member of a party, you only needed like 100 signatures. And so for me running as independent, I needed to get something like 18,000 signatures.
Wow.
And we had to get 30,000 to finally get enough to put me on the ballot. Wow. Because so many of them, that this might come as a surprise, but the person who counts the signatures, they looked at every single one. They weren't just going to give them an eyeball. They checked every single freaking signature that we turned in.
Wow.
And so the Peace and Freedom Party approached me, so I joined the party. And I wasn't on the central committee or whatever. And in 2012, I was approached by a good friend of mine, Cynthia McKinney.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And who was a Democrat Congress person from Georgia.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then she got pushed out of Congress by AIPAC, really. They're the ones who pushed her out of Congress. And so she said, hey, Roseanne Barr, who had just been seeking the Green Party nomination and didn't get it, Jill Stein got it, wants to, run for the Peace and Freedom Party nomination. And the Peace and Freedom Party, we don't go by the I don't know why my voice is doing this. We don't go by the primaries. We go by a nominating convention.
Okay.
So
much like the Green Party does.
Yeah, Rocky. Yeah. What was his name? He was a politician. Rocky somebody. Oh my God, I haven't heard about him for a long time. Anderson.
Okay.
Rocky Anderson. He won the primary, but then we had to go to the nominating convention, and to become the nominee, you have to get delegates. And so we have the first vote, and in the first vote, everybody who is promised to a candidate votes that way. If it requires a second vote, then you can switch your allegiance. So Roseanne wanted to get the Peace and Freedom Party nomination. So Cynthia called me and she said, you'd be if we could get you on the ticket, we think that Roseanne would get the nomination. And so that's what happened. I went on the ticket and we did get the nomination. And I just want to say that Roseanne Barr was a good friend to me, and she helped me a lot. She helped me a lot with my campaign when I ran against Pelosi. She donated, she came out.
Wow.
She did events with us. And then we became the nominees of this, and she didn't want to do anything. She didn't want to raise money. She didn't want to campaign.
Hmm.
And I got so frustrated. She lives over in Hawaii.
Right.
And
Mhm.
the Peace and Freedom Party, at that time, was only on the ballot in California. And so through my efforts, we also got on the ballot in Colorado, and we also got on the ballot in Florida. But I was just getting so frustrated because every time we'd have a call, I think, well, maybe we can make progress. And she's like, I'm not going to raise money, just to spend it. I'm like, well, what do you,
What is-
what do you think a campaign is?
Right. Right.
And so
Wow.
she was starting to put some really, she had a Twitter, as we all know. She
Yeah.
was very active on Twitter, kind of
Yeah.
like a Donald Trump kind of thing. Then she started saying that she really liked this one platform where, if you get welfare, then you have to be sterilized, and all kinds of. But why are you?
What?
What?
Yeah. Hello. I'm like, first of
What?
all, the Peace and Freedom Party has an awesome platform.
Mm-hmm.
And you are the nominee of the Peace and Freedom Party. You don't have to go outside looking at these eugenicist
Right.
things. And so
Wow.
when she said that, I told the party, and I kept telling, none of them were on Twitter. And I kept on
Okay.
taking screenshots and
Oh my
showing them,
God.
like, this is what this, lunatic is saying. And I
Right.
can't even remember all the things she was saying, but I was like, okay, I wrote something on if my party wasn't going to listen to me, I was like, Roseanne has tens of millions of dollars. I think at
Mhm.
that time she was worth something around 200 or 300 million.
Wow.
And she's got her nut ranch in Hawaii. All I have
Mhm.
really is my reputation. And I
Right.
cannot be associated with someone like this. So I quit the campaign, and it was too late for me to, get off the ballot. So I had to stay on the ballot. But yeah, so it was traumatic. That campaign was traumatic in so many ways, but mostly because of her.
I
And
see.
so,
Wow.
but we did, I don't even know how, we did. Yeah, maybe I think we came in like fourth or something.
Yeah.
But she didn't, once we got on the ballot, she didn't want to go after Obama. It seemed like she just wanted to trash Jill Stein. And I was like, we're not really running against Jill Stein.
Right.
We're running against the duopoly. We're
Right.
running against the Democrat and the Republican.
Right.
Those are the people that we should be attacking, because we need to peel off their voters.
Right.
We don't, we're not going to get Jill Stein's voters. We're not getting Green voters. You pissed all the Green Party off by
Right.
what you did. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was just really a horrific thing
Yeah.
that
Okay.
happened. But it's all good. I wrote a book after that campaign called "I Left My Marbles in San Francisco," and it's the scandal of federal politics. And I mostly talked about my campaign against Pelosi, but I also added a afterword about my campaign against Roseanne.
For some reason, I thought you ran for mayor in the East Bay somewhere, like Richmond or something.
Whatever.
Yeah.
No. I used to live in Berkeley, and
Okay.
then I lived in Oakland for a little while. I lived in San Francisco, but yeah, no, I never ran for anything like that.
Yeah, I'm
So
not sure why I got that idea in my head, but yeah. So okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, that actually clears some things up. I think it clears a lot of things up for people who've been following your life for the last, since 2004. So, thank you for that. I appreciate that, and I hope it
But I
didn't
want to.
dredge up old bad
No,
feelings.
God, no. I mean, everything. I'm an open book, and everything's just right out there. And another thing I want to mention is that in 2020 or 21, I left the Peace and Freedom Party because the they agreed with all the lockdown fascism, and I was like, how can you belong to a party that has freedom as part of the name and agree with all of this fascism and all of this authoritarianism and all of this, like, let's put everybody, healthy, sick, young, old, let's put everybody in one box. It's like, let's take away the relationship people have with their families, their communities, their healthcare providers, and let's just make everybody do the same thing. Like, we're all the same type of person. And so, yeah, I left that party as well.
Wow. Yeah, we left the Green Party probably after the 2016 election. I'm going to see if you're frozen right now. I'm going to see if I can get that to stop. Okay. Yeah. Can you hear us okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, your image is frozen.
Your image is frozen.
And I'm not frozen on my end.
Okay. All right.
I can, the Putin lever is still.
Yeah, I think you would have had to, log out and log back in to change that. Yeah. So yeah, we left the Green Party, went further left, and so, and just, we don't participate in any of it anymore.
But the Green Party also came out very strongly in favor of medical tyranny.
Oh yeah,
yes,
that's why we did. Yeah,
that's why we're done.
Yeah,
we're done with all of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we left before that happened, right? So but I had been following, and I realized that was what was going on.
Yeah. We left right after the 2016 debacle of the 2016 election. We left everything. We left all parties, but we still follow. Like, for instance, McKinney. We still follow McKinney.
I'm still trying to see if I can get you unfrozen there. Hang on a second.
Where is she? We're playing with our sorry guys. So where is she?
Ozark renews. Maybe while you're doing that, I can comment on Ozark's comment about the Green Party has a sordid history of supporting pederasty in Germany.
Oh wow. Okay.
The Green Party of Europe is not the same as the Green Party
in the U.S.
Of the U.S. And I'm not saying that there's some elements in the U.S. Green Party. They might. I don't know. That's one thing I haven't heard as a criticism of the Green Party here in the United States.
Yeah, I haven't either. And it's like you said, it's a much different party than the one in Europe.
Absolutely.
Do you want me to log off and log back in if I'm still frozen?
You're not. You're moving a little bit here and there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's coming back.
Yeah.
Here and there. Maybe if we switch topics, then the
right.
And it's hard to say what's behind that. Our platform here on Melon is pretty, they're pretty, they don't interfere with us at all. So I'm not
Sure.
Maybe
some squirrels are chewing on our tables.
Right. We tried to
over here in California. to get my squirrel rifle.
For those folks out there, we were trying to record earlier in the week, and Cindy had some internet issues. Turns out AT&T uses wiring that it has soy-based coating on the outside, and some tree rats got into the wiring,
or some squirrels,
or something. It's delicious. It's delicious.
Yeah,
so good and so good for you.
Well, it's the Green Party in 2016. The big thing I had against them was, after Clinton lost, it wasn't Putin's fault.
No,
right. It was actually Clinton's fault. She's like one of the most atrocious human beings alive today.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She and her husband. But anyway, the Jill Stein and the Greens raised money to do the recounts.
Right.
And I was like, why are you helping this war criminal? It's not helping you, Jill Stein.
Right.
It doesn't matter how many times they count the votes. you're not going to come out the winner. So you're using a lot of money, and people donated to this effort, you
They did.
know.
That
And
really gave us pause for thought as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, nah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't.
Like,
I
Yeah.
wouldn't help that woman, and I wouldn't help the Democrat Party,
right.
Right.
you
Well,
know, and that's what
watching
she
her-
was doing.
Yeah, watching her carry water for the Dems was
Mhm.
just ridiculous, and
Yeah.
we just cut ties completely.
Yeah,
you
we
know.
met her a couple of times too.
Oh yeah, I know Jill. She's
Yeah.
a very nice. She's a very nice
Very
lady.
nice.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
So Ozark Renew actually asks, we'll let you feel this. Do you have any suggestions for healing these cultural divisions? That's a loaded question.
It really is, because I feel like we've been trying to do that for 2 years now. I mean, I've been trying to do it for since my son was killed, because, like I was saying earlier, there's a line that I seem to cross and go ahead of people, and all of a sudden is I never changed, but their positions solidified. Like, there was the Trump line when Trump was elected into that, whatever it happens, I don't trust elections at all. But so Trump became president in 2016, and I lost friends because they thought I didn't sufficiently hate Trump.
Right.
And I'm like,
Same
what?
here. That happened over here.
You just have to realize that no matter who's president, I'm automatically going to hate him.
Same here.
So it's
Right.
like, I do hate him, but I think you guys are getting a little hysterical. You're
Right.
getting a little like personality driven,
Right.
instead of policy, and these policies aren't something that just happens when we get a new president. They're deeply entrenched for centuries.
Right.
The policies. And so anyway, I think social media has really messed discourse up.
Yeah.
It's messed debate up. There can never be any rational, polite debate about how can we figure these things out together as a community. It's always like two rams butting heads all the time. And as we talked about earlier, the funding for social media and the censorship makes it really hard to get viewpoints out. And so I think the best way to heal any kind of cultural divisions is to do it on a very micro level. Do it in your neighborhood or because that's where you have to live. You don't have to live on social media.
Right.
But it just seems like social media has created this thing where we have to get put into our little pigeonholes, and we can't venture out of them. And this is all self-limiting, right? It's not anything that's been it. Well, I think the algorithms and everything kind of push us into these kinds of situations. But I just used to be so like understanding, and it used to be like, well, before my son was killed in 2004, I was a Democrat, and I've grown. People can grow. I hope that by sharing information, but I'm just like the other day, I just put a status update, something like, people are doing this, like they're telling Florida gay, Florida. We have to say gay to Florida because they think Florida has this bill that you can't say gay, which is the bill where you not allowed to teach transgender up until 4th grade, I think. And so the liberals have said that means that you can't say gay in Florida. It doesn't say that anywhere in the bill. And so,
Wow.
So there I was like, you guys are, I'm sorry, you guys are disgusting me, because there's this issue going on in Eastern Europe that could lead to the total annihilation of the planet. And you're friggin' saying gay to Florida.
Right.
You know,
Right.
grow the hell up.
Well,
Please.
You know?
it is amazing to us as well.
Yeah.
And we talk about language a lot, and
And
how
it's the president that they support.
right.
Right.
That demented creature, that
Mhm.
ghoul, and his vice president, who
Mhm.
is she a robot?
Mm.
You know, is she like
Basically,
a
yeah,
Yeah.
is
she
she
is.
an android that they wind up and then she kind of
Well, she's
just
a San
does dumb
Franciscan, so there you
things?
go.
Yeah.
She
Well,
yeah.
Ozark had my thought to strive for a left, center, right, independent political coalition party to compete against the duopoly. Ron Paul strived a couple years for such a party.
Mhm.
And, you know, I have been more aligned this past 2 years with uh, the center right with my positions on COVID. There's not a lot of left leaning people who have the same positions that we do, you know.
Nope.
Mm-hmm.
No, there
And
isn't.
so it's become anti-intellectual to be pro thinking for yourself, I guess.
Mhm.
And so I, you know, Ron, what gets me is Ron Paul and Bernie Sanders have been able to like electrify young people. I'm like, those are two old white guys. How come you guys are so excited about them? You know,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, I don't get it either.
Well,
yeah,
I think people want the cuddly wuddly grandpa or grandma.
yes.
I think that's I know this is gonna really offend some people, but I think it's the millennial generation. They got along better with their grandparents than they did with their parents, I believe, and so they
Mhm.
responded really well to Bernie Sanders. That generation did. There's
And
something
Ron
about
Paul.
and
Ron
Ron
Mhm.
Paul.
Paul got so much support. And I think Ron Paul has more integrity than Bernie Sanders does
Yeah,
on
Yeah,
any day
absolutely.
of
yeah.
the
Yeah,
week.
I mean, if
So
you were to compare them, but
yeah.
we're still like,
Well, yeah.
yeah, so I like yeah, I'm like you can I like Ozark said he agrees with local actions. I think when you have local things, we've had a lot of you know, activity here where I live against, and it's been run by the students against wearing masks to school, and it's been just a wide range of demographics working together on that issue. So finding a local issue where you can work with people, and I think the closer you get to your issue, the more it doesn't matter what political party people are, you know, because everybody wants to stop, you know, logging or whatever is going on locally. Many people want to get together and stop mask wearing in schools, and so the politics are at that point become irrelevant. But when you're nationally,
Mhm.
the system is so entrenched. We really need we're seeing this at you know at this time, the collapse of the US empire. It can't sustain itself. So if we're working locally to build community of like-minded people around certain issues, then when the empire does collapse, at least we have a local support system in place.
yeah, we
Yes,
agree. And
absolutely.
and we've been talking about how the global governance is starting to take form, and the fact that we're seeing the collapse of the U.S. empire, I believe, is part of that and intentional.
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
they're basically flying it into the ground, uh,
Mhm.
the big nosedive,
Yep.
intentionally. That's my own opinion, but
Yeah.
um, that we're seeing this taking place also, that global governance falls into like several categories. They have the global, and then they have the regional, and then local, and so they're trying to parallel what we are trying to do as well. But that local power, you're seeing big city big city mayors becoming more popular, more powerful than state governors,
And the governors.
and the
Yeah.
governors are basically going to go away. where you're going to have these interstate coalitions, interstate compacts,
Right.
where there will be a region like southern states or the western states or whatever, and the city mayors are going to be very powerful within those regions,
Right.
so it's even like getting down. I think what I'm trying to say is we need to get down even to like the neighborhood level, or
Right.
the at least part, and not to be localist, and drive localism, but to look out for your own little area and work that way, and then federalize or confederize, whatever the case may be, to become strong through small groups that then coalesce and work together.
Right.
Right. And we basically have that on the West Coast, unfortunately. We have California, Oregon, and
Mm-hmm.
Washington, and they've all been pretty much in lockstep with this lockdown crap. But we've seen very strong mayors arise in London Breed of San Francisco, and Garcetti of Los Angeles, and San Diego. I don't know who their mayor is, but they've all been really really strong, but strong in a very bad authoritarian way. And man, I would really love if governors became irrelevant, because I really hate my governor. So much.
We dealt with him as a mayor.
I did too. He was mayor of San Francisco. We were gathering signatures in front of City Hall, and he came out, and I was like, "Hey, Gavin, you want to sign my petition to get me on the ballot?" And of course, Nancy Pelosi's his aunt.
Right.
He was very like, he's in person very charismatic, and that's a problem. That's like a huge problem with these stupid politicians.
He's not a very bright man.
No. And Nancy Pelosi is a complete idiot. And she has so much power, and it's just all financial. She's not smart, but she's very clever. She's very politically clever, and she knows how to play the game. And the reason she is where she is today is because all of the money she raised for San Francisco Democrats. And, when the one who was the guy that died in office, and then his wife he was the rep for San Francisco before Pelosi was. And then
that's going back a ways. I don't know.
Yeah, well, she's been like there forever.
I know.
Yeah.
I think she came into
Burton. It was Burton.
Oh, Burton, right.
Yeah,
so Burton's like a saint in San Francisco.
Yeah, so she was handpicked by his widow to take over after that, just because of all the money that she was able to raise. And then as she gets in office and gets more powerful, they raised money, and to gain power with her, her coalition, she distributes that money for campaigns and things like that, and just became more and more and more powerful. Now, did you see what she did at the State of the Union when she was rubbing her knuckles together?
What was that?
Going on?
Little squirrel. I mean, I don't know if these people do these things to like drive the pundits crazy, or what the story is with that.
Maybe she chewed on my wires.
You know what? She might have.
She might have done it.
Put it past her. She is a rat.
Big time. And squirrely.
And squirrely, yeah. Well, London Breed was our supervisor before she ran for mayor, or before she fell into office. We were really suspicious of the death of Mayor Lee.
Yep.
and then she kind of took over as because she was the president of the board, took over as mayor, and then ran as mayor, and of course got in. But she was our supervisor before that, and we went to a couple meetings where she was there, and just always got the creeps from that woman.
Yes, very
chilly,
very icy, very corporate. I think that's what we're dealing with, and I think that's a good a good example of what we're dealing with all over the country right now are corporate-backed, unelected committee members that are infiltrating things like nonprofits, social movement organizations, infiltrating your local, very localized bureaucracy. We see it here in in this town that we live in, with the local municipal board. We might be the last school district in Pennsylvania that, for instance, is still forcing the children to wear a mask. It's ridiculous how entrenched all of these um, uh, boards and municipal leaders are tied to corporate governance or global governance. They have zero rational thought. When a parent will speak in front of the board and say, I need you to listen to the science, they go, thank you, we'll take that under advisement. And they just do what they want anyway. It's like, it's literally like dealing with middle management. And a lot of people, especially in the age of COVID, that are critical of what's happening on every level, whether it's policy driven or health driven. They don't come from a corporate background, so they don't know how to speak the language, and they don't understand where this cold indifference, lack of rational thought comes from. JP and I have been dealing with asshole middle managers for 20 plus years.
Right.
We know how to navigate in this corporate,
barely, but yeah,
in this corporate, setting.
Right.
And so we get it. You have to be flippant. You have to be disrespectful. You have to do what you want anyway. And people are, especially in the area we live in, Pittsburgh, people love to be oppressed. They love to follow orders and do what they're told. They feel very proud of themselves for following along with whatever the leadership says. And the leadership is leading them right down, down to the ground.
They're very virtuous, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really it's really challenging. At least in California, you had a sense of, I don't know, even though everybody's a Democrat and everybody's, bought into, fascism, Mussolini's definition of fascism, which is corporate and government merging, and the people don't benefit. At least in some way in the San Francisco Bay Area, there were some people there that were like, no, we have to stand up and just say no to all of this. You don't get any of that in Pittsburgh. You just get this complete subservience to the corporate dictatorship. I would really like to hear about your son. I think that there are a lot of mothers out there right now that, especially that follow us and know you very well, that would love to hear, what was it like when he told you that he was going to enlist? Let's go all the way back to, if you can, if you don't mind.
No, it's okay.
And tell us about that experience and everything.
Well, he was our oldest child. He was 21 at the time he enlisted, but still in college, still living at home. And he was getting ready to transfer from a community college to a university. And it took him 3 years, but he worked full time, to get his AA, which is actually really good. It's really rare for people to get their AA in 2 years or complete a 4-year degree in 4 years. My daughter has a master's. I believe that took her 12 years to get that. But so he was at a job fair at his college, and he talked to a recruiter. And so he was kind of, already working full time. Do you remember that store, Mervyn's?
Yeah.
Yeah, he worked at Mervyn's full time. He had really good benefits and decent pay, but he wanted to be a teacher. So the recruiter promised him all kinds of just like, how could a working class kid, who's the oldest son of 4 siblings, pass it up? They said that he would get a $20,000 signing bonus. He was an Eagle Scout. He had a degree, and he did very well on the ASVAB test. The military, it's like a military job placement test. Really, that's what it is. And so the recruiter said that, Casey said, well, my education is very important. And if I join the military, I'll have a break in education. And the recruiter said, oh, no. You can take classes, wherever you're stationed, you can sign up for classes, and your command structure will make that available for you. And then we'll give you a laptop. So if you're not able to attend classes, you can do online classes. And the most insidious thing the recruiter promised, he goes, you scored so high on the ASVAB test, and you're such a, he went into the military almost like if he was in the Navy, it would have been like an ensign. Is that how you say it? Rank.
Yeah.
And so, but they don't have that in the Army.
Right.
And he said, you know what? You're so valuable to the Army that even if there is a war, you can tell your mom not to worry because you won't see battle. You won't see combat. And so, and when he told me that, I said, I don't know, Casey. I think pretty much if there's a war, everybody is a combatant. And so that was in 2001. He joined, and it was like in the summertime, and we all know what happened on September 11th. And so he was stationed at Fort Hood in Texas, and he was with the 1st Cavalry. And so 2001, the U.S. invaded Afghanistan. The 1st Cav didn't go. In 2003, they invaded Iraq. And Casey went the year after. And so this boy that was promised this very wonderful man, he was 24 at the time, who devoted his life to church, family, and Boy Scouting. To attain the rank of Eagle Scout is not easy, trust me. It takes the whole family to have this, and the whole troop, and everybody has to get involved. And his Eagle Project was planting 1,200 trees in the Angeles National Forest. And so we had the whole troop go up to the forest and help us plant trees for him. And so he was promised he wouldn't see combat. He was a Humvee mechanic, and he was promised he could be a chaplain's assistant is what he really wanted to do. But when he got to boot camp, they said, oh, that MOS is full. You can be a cook or a Humvee mechanic. And so if you knew Casey, it was like neither one of those would be a good fit.
No.
And so he became a Humvee mechanic, and they had been in the country in Baghdad is where he was stationed for probably about 10 days when he was killed in combat. And he was forced to go. I've heard from his buddies who were around him since then that he said, no, I'm not going. I'm a Humvee mechanic. I'm not, he was supposed to, the Shia in Sadr City were uprising against the U.S. military. It was shortly after the Blackwater contractors were mutilated and hung off a bridge in Fallujah, which isn't too far. And Fallujah had already been rebelled, and now Baghdad and Sadr City was rebelling.
Exactly. Yeah.
So also the 1st Cavalry was taking over from the 3rd Armored Division of Germany. And I've heard from, establishment sources that the command of the 1st Cavalry wanted to go out and teach, show the people of Sadr City who was in charge, and so
that's never a good thing. Yeah.
So Casey was forced on the truck that, that he went and was ambushed and killed. And so, I'm very proud of him that he refused initially to go. And his sergeant told him, you get your goddamn fucking ass on that truck. And so one of his buddies told me, you keep on blaming Bush, but you should be blaming Sergeant so-and-so that made him go. I said, no, because Sergeant so-and-so or Casey or you wouldn't have been there in the first place. You shouldn't have been there in the first place.
Right.
And of course, my analysis of blaming Bush has like grown exponentially since Casey died to, include all the aspects of global imperialism. And so, like I said earlier, shortly after, like 3 months after I went to, after he was killed, I went to talk in Berkeley at the the Berkeley Unitarian Universalists. And, they have a long history of social justice and peace. But I'm sure every single one of them are still wearing their masks.
Oh yeah, and they're probably waving a Chechnyan flag, or not Chechnyan, Ukrainian flag,
or Uranian.
Yeah.
And so they brought. It was a Gold Star mom from Southern California who I was starting to get to know. She came up, so we went to support her, and like they said, do you have any comments? So I raised my hand and I made this really long comment that happened to go on Channel 7 News. And so that was my first, outspoken thing against the war and what killed Casey. And, there's an aspect to this that when I became well known after Camp Casey in Crawford in 2005, I had an Iraqi mother email me, and her son was wounded in the same battle that killed Casey. But he didn't die right away. He eventually ended up dying. But she said, we don't want to kill your children.
Right.
And it's just that simple. And I was like, well, most of them don't want to be there. Right. They join the military for whatever reason, and it's mostly working class, poor, people of color that join because there's really no options.
Right.
What are you going to do? My daughter, I said she took her like 12 years to get her master's degree. She's $50,000 in debt, and that's not bad. That's not bad because she got a lot of loans and grants and help, and she only had to borrow $50,000 to get something that should be a human right, not something just for the elite.
Right.
And then Casey decided to go another way. He was promised when he got out of the military that he would get all these, all this money for college. And even the people who survive and get out and go get college, it's really hard for them to access those benefits. You have to be very consistent and diligent. And a lot of veterans who just got out of war aren't anything like that,
Right.
And so, so that is just a terrible system. I was in Cuba a few years ago, and I spoke at a Cuban university, and it was to their English major that I was speaking to. And so they all were really good at English. And so I was telling them the story about how Casey died for a college education and how my daughter went into all this debt for a college education, and they didn't believe me.
Yeah.
They're like, they don't, if they get on the university track, they're paid for, or they can go to a track where they get job training.
Right.
That's the two things, if you test well, and when you're in university, you have to keep on testing and testing to go through with it. So, but we have very little apprenticeships available. Right. And my other son, when he was 19, he lucked into an apprenticeship being a land surveyor. So he's the other kind of spectrum of this. And he's, 30 something. Yeah. I have to think of when they were born and add it up. Once they get into their 30s, I don't know. I know to the minute of each grandchild's age, but not like my kids. He's somewhere in his 30s. He was born in 83, so he's 39. He'll be 39 this year. And he's 20 years journeyman land surveyor. Great
Right.
union, great benefits.
Mhm.
And that should be an option to everybody. You
Right.
know, it's
Yeah.
like they shouldn't have to join the military or go into lifelong debilitating debt
Right.
to get a university education.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm a big fan of trade schools, actually. I'm a big fan of learning a craft. We have even in our neighborhood, we have a little wood shop school up the street from us.
Oh, nice.
So I noticed that, there's in Pittsburgh, there's, obviously there's Carnegie Mellon University, which is all about, robots and transhumanism. And then there's the University of Pittsburgh, which is all about engineering and all that. But not everybody can afford those
Bioethics,
and bioethics.
but not in a good way.
But there's
whatever.
also a very
Bioethics, that's a oxymoron.
exactly.
Yeah.
But there's also a very strong contingent of like wood shop, schools, woodworking schools, basic trade schools like plumbing, like mechanics, and no matter what, you still need these things. You still need to know how to fix a house and fix a car.
Much of the middle class,
plumbing.
Much of the middle class in this area are of the trades. Electricians, plumbers, construction.
Right.
And so it's at least there's still that. But in our specific little community, I mean, getting a truck driving job is probably the best way to make a living.
Right.
And we're going to start seeing those go away soon too.
Yeah, for sure.
But to speak about what you said, I think that you really nailed it as far as the class issue in this country, when you are put in a position where you either have to go into hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt in order to get that bachelor's or that master's, or you have to put your life on the line for your country. And those are your two options. And that really speaks to a more systemic issue in this country of class, and class war, and why so many people inherit their poverty in the same way that the Pelosi's of the world inherit their wealth, and it keeps generating more and more wealth for them, while poverty keeps generating more and more, and it becomes systemic. It becomes part of your legacy in this country. There's a lot of people around here that their legacy is poverty. Like that, their grandparents were poor, their great grandparents were poor, and not through any fault of their own, but because the system is designed that way,
designed to keep.
And what really gets me about all this is like people just say, "Oh, if you work hard and do everything right, blah blah blah, the American dream." And so, if we don't achieve this American dream, whatever that is, then we must be lazy, stupid. And it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite.
We're the ones that work the hardest, and we generate wealth for the capitalists.
Yeah.
And we get shit on all the time. So, you know.
And it's more expensive to be poor than to be rich.
Yeah, it's very expensive to be poor.
It really is. And this is what kills me lately. It's all of these liberals who are saying, I would pay $15 a gallon for gas if it meant that we can keep Ukraine free and keep it democratic, which it's never been either one of those.
Right.
And so Russia is more free and democratic than Ukraine is. But so they're saying that, or they're saying, if you don't like it, buy an electric car. If you don't like it, move closer to your work. Like, we have all of this financial flexibility. It's like, so what you're saying is you support the war machine here in the United States and the oil companies more than you support your fellow workers.
Right.
And what you're saying to these workers is, it's just absolutely ridiculous. And if we could afford an electric car, you know what? Those don't generate any kind of positive energy, whatever. We have wars for lithium. Who was it like Elon Musk? Was it when there was a coup in Ecuador And he said, well, coups happen, and there's a lot of lithium mining there, and he needs that for his stupid electric cars.
Right.
So
Exactly. And it seems to me that Ukraine may have a good supply of lithium as well, but I can't be certain. I don't remember
yeah,
if I read that or
I'm
not.
not certain about
Yeah.
that. They have a
Um,
lot of good things the U.S. wants. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well,
a lot of juicy things.
I was reading combined Russia and Ukraine combined supply over half the world's supply of sunflower oil, which is used a lot in food preparation and like packaged foods,
Right.
and so it's kind of remarkable, what is going on there. And we always say it always comes down to money, and it really is, and then power, of course.
It's a cash cow. It's a cash cow for the war machine, and that includes the oil companies for sure. So, like, really, if the oil companies just didn't want to have, all these enormous profits, then they wouldn't have to raise the price of gas at all. And they'd still be okay.
Right.
They wouldn't like be hurting. We wouldn't have to have a GoFundMe for Shell or Chevron, or same thing with Pfizer.
Right.
It's like, why do you have to charge so much for your drugs? And they say, oh, but they're free. The people tell me the jabs are free.
Yeah, sure they are.
You gotta be stupider than I even imagine. Who do you think's paying for those? And then Biden said, I've ordered millions and millions of pills, the Pfizer Mectin or whatever. And so Biden's not making a check from his personal account for those pills he ordered. And I'm just wondering if he took all of them before the State of the Union, because he was pretty fuzzy. Did you take millions and millions of those pills?
Right. That was just a surreal State of the Union address. Between him and Pelosi, and then also, somebody was saying, what was it? He said something like, instead of Ukraine, I think he said Iraq or something.
He said Uranian.
Is that what he said?
That's why I keep on
Uranian.
calling them
Okay.
Uranian.
I thought he said. I thought he said Iranian.
Some people thought he said Iranian, but if you listen, he said Uranian, like that. Yeah. And
weird.
So I don't usually watch that kind of stuff, but I turned it on and I couldn't stop watching. It was so fabulous. It was amazing. I just couldn't stop watching, and I had a little running commentary on my Facebook about what was happening. But yeah, no.
Well, we watched the Trump speech at the CPAC, and we figured that since we watched that, we should watch the Biden speech too, because they're both like, any Trump speech, especially Trump, it's like, he's like a comedian, a Catskill comedian, right? And so we're like, well, we might as well watch the other clown show,
right?
Yes. I didn't watch the Trump.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's funny because it's pre-election speeches, so they're a lot more candid.
Right.
They're a lot more candid.
Right.
And so he's more off the cuff and more, in some ways more real. And
it was CPAC, right?
Yeah, CPAC. So, but
when Joe Biden's off the cuff, he says stuff like, "I wiped my butt."
I know. Well,
we don't want Joe Biden to be, or my butt is wiped. I forget what he said.
Oh my
butt is wiped.
Oh my God.
Good for you.
And he's always been that way. He's always been that way. And he's always been the guy that the Democratic Party uses as the, as the attack dog.
Right.
And to, go after whoever he, they're trying to denigrate at the time.
Right.
And so, his that's been his purpose, and he's awful.
I would like to, before we end, there's one more thing I would like to talk about, but I'd also like to show your website. I think people would love to support you, and they'd love to know that you actually have a great podcast, which I've listened to and got a lot out of it.
Nice.
So Cindy Sheehan's Soapbox.
Yeah.
So tell us about this, because I was wondering, first of all, is this a radio show that then you port over to a podcast, or how do you do that?
So I used to be on the Air America affiliate in San Francisco right after my run against Pelosi, but it was costing me like $1,100 a week. So it was mostly like I was an infomercial
Wow.
than a radio show. So I just started doing my own and hosting it at Cindy Sheehan's Soapbox. So I've had situations where it was like on iTunes or whatever, but iTunes kicked it off and I can't get it back. I can't get it back on. So, but I was telling you guys, I want to do like more of what you're doing right now, and I got to figure out how to do that. But
well, we can talk offline.
Yeah, I've had it
that.
for since 2009, Cindy Sheehan Soapbox. So
Okay.
I put my articles, and I used to put information about actions and things I was doing, but I've been told by 2 different organizations that I worked with that since I'm not vaccinated, that I'm not welcome at events and stuff. And plus, I'm not traveling. I'm not going to like jump through their hoops to travel. I had a hard time jumping through the travel hoops anyway after 9/11, but now it's even worse. So
we're the same place. We just won't do it.
So
I'm not going to wear a mask for 7 hours to fly back to California.
Yeah, no, there's no way. And so I've had a lot of really great guests. Recently, I did a show on what's really happening in Ukraine. Very informative. I had a very smart guest.
Oh, we watched that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And so today I'm talking to one of my comrades from Pennsylvania, Dakota Lilly, and we'll be talking about, he's an expert on Venezuela, so we'll be talking about this delegation from the U.S. to beg Venezuela to sell them oil after they've been like 2 decades of trying to kill the democratically elected leader, overthrow the revolution. They call Maduro an evil they don't even recognize Maduro as president of Venezuela. The other guy, Juan Guaido. And so now they have to like talk to Maduro because Guaido doesn't have any like authority over the oil. I just really hope Maduro just tells them to stick it up their asses, you know, and they like even crashed oil prices to harm the Venezuelan economy. So and Venezuela is in alignment with Russia. So they've been allies and done a lot of things with Russia and China because, when the US blockades you, then who else are you going to reach out to?
Right,
exactly. And we always think of Juan Guaido as Obama too.
Yeah, he's so
smarmy. Oh my gosh,
and smarmy, Harvard educated. Like, come on.
I could tell you about the time I met Obama.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell you?
Did you have to take a shower afterwards?
So after Camp Casey, we had this big thing in Washington, D.C. where there were probably about 500,000 people came to protest the wars. And between me leaving Camp Casey, I said I'd stay in Crawford till George Bush left, and he left early because of Katrina. So then I was free to go because Crawford's not any place you want to spend the month of August in at all. No. And so we left, and I went to Washington, D.C., and I met with all of the leaderships of both parties, and Obama was one of them when he was senator. The first thing he said to me? I was just wearing my protest clothes because I just came from Texas. I had shorts and a t-shirt, and I'm clean, I have very good personal hygiene. He said, that's how you dress to meet with a U.S. Senator?
Oh my God.
Wow.
Who the hell do you think you are?
Wow. What an arrogant prick.
I know. Wow. So I've never really liked Obama.
No.
Yeah. He's horrible.
So he said that
is that how you dress?
That's how you dress
to meet with a U.S. Senator.
Wow.
Yeah, it'll still pick up when we.
Okay.
Trying to sneakily pull my computer cord over.
Okay.
Because I'm getting ready to lose my power.
Oh,
okay. All right.
Do you have time very quickly to tell us about your experience here in Pittsburgh at the G20?
Oh my God, that was so crazy. So I think, was that in 2009?
I believe,
2009, 2010. It
yeah,
was early in Obama's presidency, but so they were organizing a big protest against the G20 and everything they stand for. And I went, and there was more cops than protesters.
that's right.
They brought in cops from all over the country and National Guard. And so I was walked by one National Guard contingency, and they recognized me, and we were chatting. And I was all like, why are you, and I say this to all police that arrest me or I come in contact with, I'm like, why are you in alignment with ruling class? You know, you are workers, you come from work, and especially National Guard. Cops are on a different level, you know, especially since 9/11. And so, but the National Guard, and so we chatted about that. But I always tell them, and a lot of the law enforcement that I come in contact with, they always say, Cindy, we support you. Like they kind of, I'm like, well, I'm not going to believe that till you arrest, you know, the troublemakers and stop arresting me.
Right.
You know, so I'm not going to believe that. Let's turn around and go arrest everybody that's across the fence at the G20, and then I'll believe that. But it was so brutal, the oppression at Pittsburgh G20. That was the first time I was ever tear gassed. It was the first time that they ever used the. That's a nice comment, friend.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
so
you.
So that was the first time they ever used the LRAD, that noise.
Oh, right. Yeah, the acoustic weapons.
The acoustic, that is really terrible. It's not the sound, which is bad enough. It kind of starts rearranging your molecules, and it's very painful. So you can't stay. You can't use earplugs or whatever. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
And another thing is, the protesters were told no helmets, no gas masks, no bandanas. We couldn't wear anything to protect ourselves from their brutalism.
Right.
And so one day we were there. And I ended up in the hospital because of the tear gas. I got a really bad case of something in my lungs that hasn't been right since then. And so we went to support a protest on campus, and the cops were literally, if a student was riding his bike through campus, they were knocking them down and arresting them. They weren't even part of the protest, you know? And so as somebody, you know, an old, you know, I wasn't as old as I am now, obviously, but I wanted to protect those people, protect the people that were being brutalized. And finally, the cops just started chasing us and shooting us with rubber bullets. And I finally I just thought, what the hell am I doing? Why am I running from these guys? And I just turned around and stopped, and just turned around, and I'm like, if you hit me with one of those, you better have a real bullet to follow up, because I'm coming after your ass. And so we finally ended up in a Holiday Inn, and it's so funny. The Prime Minister of Australia was staying there with his entourage. So we run in, smelling like tear gas and everything, and order a beer, and they're watching some like soccer match or whatever. So we were able to confront him about what was happening. And I just have I wasn't involved in the Seattle WTO protests, but it was from what I've seen of what happened in Seattle, it was very, very similar, very brutal, and very similar to that.
Yeah, it felt, I had no idea until we moved to Pittsburgh, and I talked to a couple of people that are from here who experienced it firsthand, or had heard stories. I had no idea about the level of brutality here. It felt like an ambush. The way that they were describing it.
It was completely like that. Yeah. And they had so many cops, they could corner us into situations that we couldn't escape from. I ended up not being arrested for that whole time, which is strange, but
That's good.
that was a very brutal. And since then, it seems like the rulers, what they call the Great Reset and stuff, are just accelerating their program, and they use this COVID shamdemic, scamdemic, whatever you want to call it, to accelerate their total domination over workers and poor people. And it's just, look at how much wealth was stolen from the working class. There's no middle class.
Oh, yeah.
There's hardly any middle class in this country.
No, there
so
isn't.
The working poor class, there was a huge transfer of wealth, another huge transfer of wealth. And it's almost like COVID was almost like a bubble. You know, like they have these big tech bubbles or housing bubbles, whatever. They make money when it's inflating, but they make more when it pops.
Right.
You know, and I think that's what they used COVID for, and that's why they were so diligent.
Yeah.
And I just want to tell Ozark that I'm a very strong believer in holistic and natural medicines, and so I appreciate his suggestions.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ozark, for that. Well, and thank you, Cindy. This has been, it's been about an hour and a half now.
Yeah.
So we really, really appreciate you taking the time out of your early morning to speak to us. We have been fans for years, and so we feel very honored to have hosted you on our platform, and we hope that we see more from you on your on your podcasting and whatever else you do in life.
And I just want to really thank you for inviting me and for your flexibility.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And we can have a session, off another time to tell you about,
some other options for you. If you as far as if you want to widen your reach, in podcasting and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we will see you in a bit, but we're going to wrap up the show now.
Okay.
Right. Thank you, everybody, for listening as well.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
I hope everybody enjoyed that.
Yeah, I did.
That was truly enjoyable. It went by so fast.
It always does, but it did, especially this time.
Especially this time. Yeah.
It's funny because I've known about Cindy for so long, like you said, and
I forgot to mention that our good friend in San Francisco actually met her and protested the war in Syria with her in San Francisco years ago.
Oh, right.
So he was especially excited about this talk we had today.
Yeah. So and it's funny because it's almost like, I feel like I'm speaking to a legend, so it's kind of fun that we got a chance to do this. So we were really happy that she agreed to come on.
Yes.
So
it was worth the wait.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Totally.
It was a little touch and go for a little bit there, but we're glad that we got to do this live as well. So for those of you who had the opportunity to comment, thank you for your comments and your suggestions and things. We're glad that we got a chance to do a live show today. So
I love the live aspect of this show because we do see the real-time comments and the interaction, which helps our guests feel listened to. It helps us ask the right kind of questions. We recently we have been pre-recording our interviews and then live streaming them a couple of days later, just because of scheduling.
Our scheduling
conflicts and things like that. But
so
the more I think we can do live like we did with Cindy, I think it will be beneficial for everyone.
So well, anything else?
No, I think that's it. I'd like to thank everybody for joining, and thank you for your continued support. Please support us. Our platform is Rockfin and Patreon. You can leave a tip in the YouTube super chat, or you can leave a tip at Rockfin, or become a patron for a couple bucks a month. Throw us a little support as well. And don't forget to support Cindy. All of the information on how to support her will be in the show notes.
So both her website for the her blog, and her Facebook page. So friend her on Facebook as well.
Exactly.
All right. Well,
thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah. We'll see you soon on the next Pull Quote.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Pullquote is made possible by our patrons and supporters. You can help us continue to do the work that we do by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Book of Hours. Join Rockfin or leave us a tip at rockfin.com/Book of Hours. Or leave us a one-time donation at paypal.me/Book of Hours. Thank you.